Well, I will get us kicked off here while everyone continues to join in, as is the habit and custom, I think, of these virtual events in this year of 2020, right? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dakota Schultz. I'm the executive director of the Chicago chapter of A&A Business Marketing. So thank you for being here. Welcome. We're really excited about today's program. Like so many other organizations, we switched to going virtual, right? I mean, that's the way of the world. But our goals always remained the same, and that was to share ideas and best practices from our business marketing peers, particularly those that are relevant and important, and always those that are helpful too. That's our goal with this organization. And I think that what's baked into that actually is inspiring each other as marketers to be even better marketers. That's what this organization is all about. That's what you are all here for. Particularly as we head into the end of the year and everybody is looking for that, final and fulfilling dose of inspiration. That's what this event is about and what we're really leaning into. I think that probably no matter what role you play within your organization and what industry you work in, that there's probably purpose built into that business. And my bet is that that purpose involves people, and particularly helping people in some kind of way. And our role as marketers is certainly to develop and showcase that purpose, and most specifically to inspire action around it in whatever ways that we can. So where do we get our own inspiration from? I know that one spot that I get it from is certainly my friends and colleagues. So I want to give a big thanks to our board of directors for this chapter, who are all volunteers and are those that really step up to make this happen. I can't say enough about all of them as friends, as colleagues, as peers, and particularly in a year when so much has changed, right? To have some consistency with this group of people to continue to marshal our efforts forward for this organization has been really, gratifying. So thank you to all of them. I'm sure many of them, and for those that you don't, look them up on LinkedIn, connect, great resources for all of us. So thank you to the board, fellow board members, very, very much appreciated. The other spot of inspiration is certainly community, and that's everybody that's here. And I do not just want to kind of give superficial thanks. I think that it is a testament to what everyone is trying to do within their profession, to make the time for events like this, to get inspired, to learn something, to connect. And that takes effort, and it shouldn't go without being noticed. So thank you for that. Speaking of events, time for the plug for our next event before we get into this one. So on January 29th, which seems, years away, but we're going to be so excited when we get into January of a new year. We are making a switch back to some real tactical stuff. So we've got an event that is all about agile marketing, but not just kind of here's what the principles of agile are, but really how is it working? And we've recruited two different companies to share their perspectives in that. So we'll have a great discussion with Alon Lopez, who is a board member here in the chapter, but he's the executive director of marketing at Hillrom, which is a leading medical technologies solutions company, and Annie Marcellet, who's the CMO of the Development Bank of Canada, and they particularly specialize in helping small to medium businesses and entrepreneurs. So I think they're both going to have some really impressive and useful and helpful information to share about how they're doing agile marketing, what's working, what's not. We're expecting a really robust kind of Q&A session and want this to be informative and beneficial to everybody. So I hope you can make it. January 29th, we'll be sending out stuff, but be sure to mark your calendars for that. It'll be another online and lunchtime event. So a couple things as courtesy reminders for today. We've turned off most of your microphones, but if they do accidentally turn themselves on, please make note of that so we don't have any ambient noise. We'll have a session at the end of the presentation today where we'll get into some Q&A. So if you want to submit questions into the chat at any time during the presentation, please do. But we'll also try to take some live questions at the end, and you can use the raise your hand function in Zoom, and we'll call on you as such. and have some great participation in that way. Final note, which is always a good thing for me, I suggest that you use the speaker view in Zoom. It's the top right corner. If you're not familiar with it yet, it gives you the best, I think, presentation of everything that we're doing today. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to Suzanne Martin, who's going to moderate our conversation today. Suzanne is the VP and executive partner at Gartner. I'm sure everybody knows Gartner. They're one of the world's leading research and advisory firms. She works really closely with CMOs across several different industries. She's sat in that chair several times herself, so knows the pressures, the ins and outs, the responsibilities, and all that kind of stuff. She's also probably one of our most tenured members of ANA and on the board, past president as well. I think that personally, she really is the personification of what this organization is all about. She is always willing to support our fellow marketers, always coming with ideas, and just has an unbelievable work ethic. And that's as a volunteer for what we're doing. She's a wonderful friend and a great human. So I will turn it over to you, Suzanne.
Wow, looks like my check got cashed. Thank you.
There you go.
Although I don't know if I can forgive you for tenured. It sounds like code for old. But
no, well, I thought it was the romantic way of.
Thank you so much. I actually appreciate that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And it really is great to see everyone here today in our community. And it's been quite a year, as Dakota said. I mean, I think only in a year like this could I have spent my morning in a dentist chair for 2 hours and get back home 10 minutes later beyond Zoom here talking to you. So hopefully I'm able to articulate properly and you can hear me because I'm seriously fresh out of the dentist chair. So today we welcome Victoria Morrissey, who I just so enjoy working with. She's joining us today to share really some of the really great things to take out of 2020 into 2021. So we can have renewed energy both professionally and personally. Now, Victoria is global marketing director and brand director at Caterpillar, which is one of the world's great brands. And she leads end-to-end marketing capabilities for the enterprise, brand identity, licensing, sponsorships, and even leads the CAT industrial design team, which must be pretty cool. You can design bulldozers and things. Prior to CAT, Victoria served as marketing director at Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern, and that's a transgression for which I, a University of Chicago MBA graduate, will have to forgive her. But she also went to U of I.
That goes two ways.
So she's okay. We'll keep her. So Victoria also had an amazing experience at Grainger, who many of you know, where she launched a brand platform that delivered double-digit growth. So her background is extensive. Her career is amazing. 20 plus years leading marketing efforts in great brands like those, and also at numerous global ad agencies too. So we're super lucky to have her here with us today. And Victoria, welcome.
Thank you. My honor to be here.
Awesome. So tell us just a little question before we get into it today. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of this topic. What drove you to put this story together?
Yeah. So thank you, Suzanne, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today. My hope is that some of what you will see will give you food for thought as you go forward. So I think where the genesis of this came was the challenge of how do we as 3D people, right? Many of us very animated, very needed in the chemistry of being in a room together. I with my dealers, my customers, my team members. How do we survive, and not just survive, but actually thrive in this 2D world? And it's a world that will likely be with us for some time. And so the genesis was things are not always as good right now, but there are things we can do to make it better going forward. And at the core of it was this idea of not just business to business or people to people, but human to human. So the humanity piece was what really resonated with me. And I felt like rather than just reflecting on what wasn't working or what was challenged or what was different, is what is our call to action? What can we actually do as we come out and move into a new reality? And so the title of Reclaiming and Reinventing is exactly that. It was very intentional to have words that were call to action. And really, Suzanne, it was the idea of while we may not all have large teams and large budgets, we are individuals and humans. And when we connect together, we can instill great change. And so that was really the impetus. And it's a very personal story as well as a professional one for me.
That's great. And, my role at Gartner, I do work with many CMOs, and this year's been an amazing year to grapple with a lot of issues. Budget and plan pivots, customer experience zigzags, digital acceleration, and now we've coined the term hybrid team. I think we had that before. And I actually heard the other day someone said that they're so ready for the fourth year of 2020 to come to a close. It kind of feels like that, right? You know. And yet through all these challenges and restrictions, the human being that we are, right, just finds and drives innovation. I think restrictions actually drive more innovation. And side note, whenever I go see those, like that chef show where they're always like putting restrictions on them, they always win, right? Because it's just the way we are as humans. So outside our world of homeschooling and pandemic puppies, there is a meaning to us as marketers here, and Victoria is going to share that today. Now, as we begin, I'd also like to highlight and kind of an interesting innovation for us here in the ANA webinar world, if you will. B2B events have really, really advanced, as many of you have probably been doing in your own businesses and day-to-day lives. And so today we're actually going to have a hybrid session to bring you kind of a richer experience. So obviously we're live now. We've got a recorded middle actually, and we can bring you more in the way it's been put together that way. And then we're going to have a live back end. So no spoilers or anything. I've seen the middle and it's pretty cool. Look for an old school video game. That's all I'm going to say. It's kind of fun. So Victoria, you ready? And Dakota?
I am. Ready. Yeah.
All right. So everyone, one last point, feel free to put your questions into the chat. We are in a live meeting here, so put the questions in even as you're watching, because we're going to get right into Q&A as soon as we get through the section here. Okay. All right, Dakota, all yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Victoria Morrissey here, and I'm very excited to talk to you today about a topic near and dear to my heart. In this critical time, how do we reclaim and reinvent our humanity? We have been pushed from a 3D into a 2D world that feels exceptionally flat. And what I would like to share with you today are some of the learnings that I have, both personally and as a marketer, as we move forward into the next era of normal. As the longest serving First Lady of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt can certainly be considered a political figure, but I would argue that her role as diplomat and activist was even more significant, with a long-lasting impact that continues to this day. She was widely respected across party lines because she saw and championed the beauty in everyone. And while her impact was enormous, she saw the work of achieving a more just, fair, and good society as a matter of the small stuff. You see, when she was asked where that important work begins, her answer was quite simple. In small places close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world. I've long loved this quote, and it's particularly interesting to read now, especially that second line, in small places close to home. When I consider the past 8 months, close to home is an understatement, because I've spent all of this time, like most of you, I would imagine, not just close to my home, but actually inside it, from morning to night, day after day, season after season after season. My husband, my adult children, and my new puppies have all been here too, every single minute of every single day, all of us. And we're coming up on almost 250 days inside this house, this small place. And before the pandemic hit, I would have told you that my family was my whole world. And I would, of course, been speaking figuratively. But now my family has literally become my whole world. It's about as close as it gets over here. And it turns out that Our Lady Eleanor was right. This small place is the ultimate testing ground for basic decency and goodness. Since it has become virtually impossible to seek progress out in the larger world, I've had no choice but to work on it right here. And whoa, what a test. We usually think of this word in its most expansive sense, capital H humanity, right? The human race, human beings collectively. But by definition, humanity also lives smaller and closer, much like Eleanor said. Humanity in that sense is simply the quality of being human. It's our good nature, our humanness. And so much of the talk over the last several months has been about people as numbers, as statistics, as trends. But what I want to talk to you about is people as warm-blooded, mistake-making, deeply feeling humans. It's about seeing in each other what we recognize in ourselves, our complicated, wonderful, fragile, mighty humanness. What's more clear to me now than ever before is the simple truth that we're all hungry for a heavy dose of humanity in every realm of life, from home to work to community and everything in between. Because you see, things are better, more meaningful when our humanity, our humanness is just dialed way up. And now, since the world broke, we have a chance to reevaluate it all, to reimagine, and maybe even reinvent a better and brighter way forward. I've distilled what I've learned over the course of this pandemic down to 4 key principles to reclaim and reinvent our humanity, but in a way that makes us better marketers and better humans, the kind of humans that actually can make the world a better place. So let's get started. Principle number 1, it's about thriving, not just surviving. Pema Chodron said it very well, quote, "To be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest." Back in March, we were all tossed out of our nests and then strangely found ourselves back in the proverbial nest of home life. But even in here, everything has been rearranged. Even more strange with the sameness, I have found the most consistent feeling to be that of inconsistency. The world all around us is shifting under our feet and before our eyes. And amidst the uncertainty, the complexity, and the struggles and the grief, everywhere I look, there are silver linings. COVID blessings, you might say. Bright, shiny rays of light, the great unexpected gifts of this time we never knew we needed or actually knew we were missing. These new circumstances have forced me and my teams to try new things. We've had to find ways to connect, to collaborate. We've had to get a little scrappier and a lot more comfortable with a test and learn mentality. I like to say that we've become fluent at adapting. Back in March, Augustine Fuentes, an evolutionary anthropologist at the University of Notre Dame, wrote this in the New Yorker, quote, "What is so important to humanity is connection. One of the amazing things about the human species, once harmless critters, not much more than monkeys running around, is that over time, we've become very creative. We've adapted to survive. That's why people will rely on now, coming up with incredibly imaginative ways to find connections, even when they're not in the same physical space together. Incredibly imaginative ways to find connections. I love that. Because one of the things I'm most proud of is all the incredibly imaginative ways we found to connect as a team. Early on, after it was clear that we weren't going to be together in person anytime soon, I started doing regular town halls. This gave me a chance to set a clear path forward, to provide transparency and reassurance during a time when everything felt fragile. And maybe just so we could hear and see each other. My team and I talked frequently about the state of things, and we got into the habit of all sharing our COVID blessings. Moments where we could see each other, not just as colleagues, but as living, breathing humans, all unified by similar circumstances. We dropped the formal clothes and personas, but we paid extra attention to our words, which have become so important in this 2D world. You see, in many ways, words are all we have right now. We found pockets of positivity and levity, and these are the fleeting moments that I believe will amount to lasting connections. We did a company-wide survey to understand how this new world of work was, well, working for everyone. And the positive responses were overwhelming and encouraging. 95% of the people in our group said they were able to support our customers while moving to a remote work environment. 93% feel supported in their efforts to adapt. And 92% said they intended to stay with the company for at least 12 months. The positive responses were really breathtaking and incredibly motivating to me. It is a true testament to the fact that we are all becoming fluent in adapting. I guess it all just boils down to asking, how are you? And actually pausing long enough to hear the answer, the real raw answer. These past 8 months have taught me the importance of really asking this question. So now I ask, and I mean it, and I listen. and I'm able to change my behavior on the spot. In the end, we calibrate and we pick up one another's slack. I'd like to think we thrive. This small act of connecting on a human level has transformed my days and improved the way I lead, and it's among the things I count as one of my most precious COVID blessings. So once we commit to thriving, we must understand the critical truth about the people around us and those who we serve, which brings me to principle 2. Professionals are people first. The world of B2B has long been seen as the less human counterpart to the world of B2C. And I get it, I really do. Even from a marketing perspective, we don't frequently use those superhuman words like insight or emotion or behavior change in the land of B2B. It's just easier to forget when we pretend that the businesses we're talking about aren't in fact composed of a whole bunch of real, live, thinking, breathing, feeling humans. Every day of this pandemic has been filled with reminders of the truth that we are all just people with real complicated lives doing work. And ironically, this is exactly the stuff that makes us better and more empathetic marketers. And these daily reminders, this hyper transparency and human honesty have helped shift the way I see our customers too. Even before the crisis, several bodies of research show that the majority of global consumers, they feel companies have lost touch with the human element of customer experience. And now here we are in this touchless, distanced digital world. And it's on us to find ways to make our customers' interactions with us as packed with humanity as is well humanly possible. This past May, we ran a campaign that wasn't focused on selling or renting or servicing our powerful yellow iron. It was a campaign that had one single human purpose: to say thank you. Thank you to the owners and the operators and all those essential workers who keep things running and progress happening. Their work has always been essential, and at the start of the pandemic, it was even more critical. They had to keep working as the rest of the world shut down. But rather than me telling you about it, let me show you exactly how we said thank you.
Emptiness. It's a dark, uncertain feeling. It's a primal fear. But it's not our reality and will not be our fate, because there are people out there who fight it every day. Though most of us are in isolation, staying out of harm's way, there are others working hard to make sure the rest of us can stay home, stay safe, stay connected, and stay happy. Thanks to the people who put food on the shelves, and thanks to the people who keep things moving. Thanks to the people who keep the lights on, and those who stand ready to do their part when they can. Thanks to those who make sure hospitals keep running, medicine and machines stay ready, and information keeps flowing so doctors and nurses can keep working and the world can recover. Thank you to everyone who fights against emptiness. We always knew we needed you. And now the world knows how essential you truly are.
Across this country, on billboards and radio stations and broadcast channels and truck stops, we said thank you. More than 57 million sets of eyes saw it, and they smiled back. 2 simple words: thank you, with massive human impact. So what direction do we go now if we have committed to thriving and celebrating these important humans? That brings me to principle number 3. It's forward to better, not back to normal. In the beginning, I think we all felt this. I just want things to go back to normal. But a few months in, I realized I didn't actually want to go back to the way things were. Long commutes, jumping on planes, attempting to get ahead and stay on top of it all. Recent research shows that 3 in 4 people in B2B decision-making roles do not want to go back to the way things were. Most people prefer this new world of work with, less time on planes and commuting, and they've become increasingly comfortable doing business digitally. Habits only take 30 days to change, and we're well beyond that at this point now. So if we assume that the way work works is forever altered, then it seems we must ask ourselves, What other new habits can we carry forward as we move into the next normal? The big question for us as marketers is this: how do we respond to changing dynamics to make what's coming better than what was? At CAT, we're responding with humanity. We're responding with care, and we're responding with action that actually makes a difference. And we're celebrating those who are doing that work that is so essential to all of us. The CAT Foundation has done a great deal over the many years, and especially this year. There's been $1 million contribution to the COVID-19 solidarity response for the World Health Organization to assist in the detection, testing, and prevention of this pandemic and this illness. And through our Feed America Global Food Bank, Caterpillar has donated over $1.75 million to support the COVID Response Fund and help emergency food boxes in communities hardest hit, especially by school closures. Example number 2, we've provided masks for essential care workers. You see, the company behind Cat Workwear ramped up production of masks for essential workers. We gave $15,000 to local medical workers and $250,000 for our own frontline employees. And finally, the little tugboat that could, or the big tugboat that could, powering the USNS Comfort. New York City was the first U.S. epicenter of COVID-19 and needed additional hospital beds ASAP. I know that probably feels like a long time ago, and it was. Our dealer, Foley Cat, and its customer, McAllister Towing, they got to work, towing in the USNS Comfort into New York Harbor, all powered by Cat engines. Little things, one at a time, that add up to so much. So now that we're committed to thriving, we recognize the power of the people, and we're looking forward. How do we wrap up with the human element? And that brings me to my fourth and final principle: H to H matters more than F to F. In so many ways, the world of in-person, face-to-face feels long gone. And while I'm yearning to have it back, to see my friends and extended family, to collaborate with my teams and dealers in person, I'm also finding the beauty in what this pandemic has forced. Without face-to-face, we've had to find new ways to connect human to human, or more accurately, heart to heart. I've long believed that storytelling is the strongest, smartest, and most potent marketing tool we have. Story is what allows people to connect with brands at heart level. It's what people say when you're not in the room. And it's what helps data and insights come alive. It's what shifts perception and ultimately changes behavior. And what we've learned at Caterpillar during this pandemic is that the best way to connect with people across the globe is with honest, engaging storytelling. Caterpillar has always lived at the intersection of human and machine. We have long understood that this dynamic relationship is the core principle on which our brand thrives. Because you see, our machines can't operate without the people literally skilled to move mountains. And our people can't dig, power, or pave without our big yellow iron. So we set out to bring man and machine together in a way that would bring joy to our customers, employees, and fans. In honor of Caterpillar's 95th and Pac-Man's 40th anniversaries, we brought back the Cat Trials. We built a life-size game board using the latest Cat machines with remote control technology and featured our wide range of services that keep our customers going regardless of the challenges that they face around every corner. Every power pellet and fruit bonus represents the services we offer to help our customers overcome those challenges. We took a machine and we made it human. We gave it heart and humor and a big dose of much needed levity. But rather than me continuing to explain it, let me show you what that game looks like. This entertaining and highly effective work generated more than 10 million views globally in less than 3 weeks, and another 10 million views of the previous 8 trials. It was featured in over 900 media outlets globally, delivering over 1 billion impressions via earned media, all at a media cost of a few $100,000. People gobbled it up. Employees, customers, dealers, humans in general. And we reminded ourselves of the power of finding new ways to tell our story and bring it to life in a whole range of relevant ways. We were able to surprise and delight, especially at a time when people are craving escapism and an ear-to-ear smile that had become so hard to find, while also driving real business growth. Humanity wasn't just a factor, it was the factor. So I want to end where we started, with Eleanor. When asked by Frank Sinatra what single word she would like to offer as encouragement to the 25 million viewers of his 1960 show, her answer was this: that one word would be hope. It's the most neglected word in our language. The challenges we are facing today at home, at work, in our communities, and the world at large can feel overwhelmingly large and impossible to solve. But for me, the hope of emerging from this thing in a better place than where we were when it began hinges on my own capability and capacity to stay focused on what I can meaningfully impact in those small places close to home. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans, wholehearted, whole-minded, can-do humans. And our capacity for change, growth, and evolution is baked into our operating systems. And no matter how difficult things are, there's always an opportunity to walk out into this great, big, messy, beautiful world and raise the bar to elevate our interactions, elevate our kindness, and elevate our work. Or in the words of Brene Brown, stay awkward, brave, and kind. Little by little, gesture by human gesture, I think we'll come out of this thing with a greater appreciation of each other, the people we work with, and the customers we serve. And I think we'll do it with our humanity, not only intact, but reinvented, reimagined, and wholly renewed. I, for one, am full of hope. Thank you.
Does anybody know how hard it is to watch yourself on a video? It's hard to do.
That was going to be my first question for you. Oh my God. Talk about the humanity, right? No, I'm really
Great.
Fantastic story, Victoria. Hey, so everybody again, put some, questions in the chat. And Dakota, I know we're going to work with you to kind of sift through and find those, because I'm going to be busy with Victoria chatting away here. So I'll start. I'll throw a question in there while you're looking for some others. Let's start with you and your team. I really resonated with me the "How are you" segment, and and I thought about it, because we've had conversations amongst my own team that I work with, and how real did it get? Everybody was positive, a bit, but how comfortable are people to really share their who they are now? And you think that's going to snap back? You think it's going to stay? And how has it changed you as a leader?
No, it's a great question, Suzanne, because it really is at the heart and soul of it. So part of what I did early on was whenever we had virtual meetings before the pandemic, I made people turn their cameras on, and I don't want to turn my camera on. And later on, they said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you made us get used to it," right? So that was the start. I think it took a long time. And so we started with humor, it'd be like, "Oh, what's the silly thing that happened to you today?" And the team came along at their own pace. And it didn't actually take that long. I think it was the tipping point once people knew this wasn't week to week or maybe a month or two. At some point in the summer, we're like, we're doing this for a long time. Yeah. Right? People showed up with cats on their laps and sweatshirts on. Right. And the humor quickly turned to sharing therapy and tears. We did weekly connection meetings with my leadership team. And as soon as one person broke down, right? I have 3 kids. I couldn't get this one on this Zoom. And then the tears would start across. It's a small group, 8 of us or so. And then in the chat, I got your back. What can I do to help? And it was one of those things that fed on each other. And I think the way I tried really hard, I showed my own vulnerability. And I think there's a few of my team members on. I didn't have any issue sharing my tears or my frustrations. So be patient. People do it. Some people do it in humor. Some are very ready to kind of throw it out there. Make it safe, make it okay. And I think your other part of your question was, do you rebound back? That is on us to keep it. And I've had that very candid conversation with my team. What do we want to get rid of? And we use a lot of really visceral words. What do we fiercely want to protect? What are we going to hold on to that we will, and this is one of them, we will never go back to full-time in the office, I don't think. We won't go back to being very formal on screen. It's on us. It's, again, small places close to home, right? It's on the individuals to do it. And I gave my team my word, and I asked them to do it with their teams. Hold tight to that. Do not let the humanity that you have shared with each other disappear. It's on us to hold on to it. So that's my hope, my commitment to my team.
It's a great answer. Conversely, and I think this is an interesting kind of marketing question, I've noticed, and maybe all of you have, that as digital has accelerated this year out of necessity, so have some tools that might get in front of that humanity, like AI. I've had chats with, bots, and I'm like, okay, it's getting pretty sophisticated, but I still know it's a bot. Maybe it's okay. Maybe we have to get over it a little bit. But, what do you think about some of that MarTech that might, kind of get in the way of the human connection? Or maybe, like you say, humans are behind it. I don't know. But what do you think?
Well, I think it's always going to be a combination of it, right? I mean, part of the studies we've done has said that in customer experience, customer service, machines cannot replace the human touch. But I do think if we're very clear and selective on when that humanity is needed, and when an automated response can be more efficient and more accurate, we win. And you win by listening to your customers. They will tell you. They will not wait in the queue. Our interaction center sits in my organization. There are some simple things they want answered very quickly. And the more we can use technology, not for the sake of technology, but to read a customer's intent and answer and give them those choices and then turn them over, we see satisfaction scores going up double digit for the customers that actually wait to do that. So I think it sounds like a non-answer, but it cannot be a one size fits all. And it's about being agile to that, and data, and you all know this, right? Data in real time and being able to adjust your response to your customer in real time is very important, and a two-way mechanism for feedback. Caterpillar, look, we're a fantastic brand and company. We are not at the cutting edge of marketing, right? And so some of what we're trying to do are the basics, and I think if you have something go one way, you lose. You must have a two-way piece of conversation. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think
it's got to be a hybrid.
No, yeah. I think hybrid is sort of the word of the, it's like a meme out of it by the end. I have my kid make a meme and we'll spread it around socially. Dakota, do you have you kind of culled through and found a
little bit. And it's on like multiple screens too, which is, helping my ADD.
Welcome to reality, right?
So there are some questions coming in via chat, and people can also kind of use the raise your hand function. I think I'll try to call on people, and you can unmute yourself. I think, Alon, you had something that you wanted to ask, and if you can introduce yourself too, I think everybody.
That'd be great.
That'd be really helpful.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dakota and Victoria. I love the presentation, and this is such an important topic. I think we've been seeing here where I work as well at Hillrom that not only is it we have to interact differently, but people are under stress, because it's harder to be at home, and yes, things are less formal, and we're not used to working in those kind of environments. So my question is, have you also seen a need to do other things that we maybe would have never done before, like some people are doing these sort of virtual happy hours just as a team internally, or have you seen a need to drive that sort of from the top? And just curious about your experience in that space. It seems like people are sort of really hungry for that connection in new and different ways internally?
No, Alon, that's a great question. I would say, let me answer it quickly. I'm also cognizant of time. It has to come from the top down, and I don't mean down, but it must be led by example, or it's just words. Actions speak louder than words. And so very early on, we did happy hours, coffees, whatever it was. And we just finally turned it into an M&B leadership marketing brand, M&B leadership connection. And I did it weekly out of the get-go, just because I wanted to see how everyone was. And then we got months into it. I'm like, you guys have enough meetings, right? Should we cut this off? And they're like, no, don't, because it became whatever it was. I mean, if it was in the evening, you brought a drink, you shared stories of the day, you didn't talk business. And I think it was that craving of humanity. I think the other thing we did is really push on the mental health component of it, right? And so early on, it was about productivity. We're not a work from home company. And it very quickly turned into, oh my gosh, this is really tough. This is just, I feel like a caged tiger and I'm pacing and I need to come out of it. So I think we started to have that dialogue, that very open discussion of the stresses on mental health that are not going to go anywhere for a while and will likely have lasting impact. And so I guess, I don't know if I've answered your question, but you have to, this is not a word, and I know that. You have to de-taboo things. You have to take the shroud away, because using mental health as an example, it's been this thing that, there's we kind of bucket it here. Now it's something every single one of us is facing in whatever way we have to. And I think if a leader can say, I'm struggling with my mental health, help me, it makes it easy for others to do it. And so I don't know if that's answered your question. I don't have a magic answer. I just think if you can talk to people, it makes a difference. So yeah, and we're going to keep that. I asked the team today, hey, we're going to go back in April. You want to keep connections? They're like, please leave them on the calendar. So it forces the humanity, but just to talk, take it all in.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you.
Great question.
Sure.
There's
and that was my son that just walked behind me in the real world. He's going to get a haircut. So
jealous.
I know. I hear you.
I want to also, because this is one of the first times that we're doing this kind of like, throwing it to calling on people.
Yep.
I want to be cognizant of not putting anyone on the spot if they put a question in the chat and going to them on video. But if Donna Villanova, if you're there and would like to ask your question, maybe unmute yourself and you'll show up. Otherwise, I'm happy to ask your question for you. There she is.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello, Donna.
Hey, Donna. Good to see you.
Hey, how are you? So I have a question from a messaging perspective to prospects. And, over the years, I've always kind of seen studies that show that using kind of negative messaging, risk messaging, saying things like, here's the top type failures that you may have and, why you need to pay attention to this particular solution works. People get, the fear part of it kind of gets people attention. But I am so tired of all of the negative messaging in the world today, on the media, with the election, with just COVID, everything that's happening, that I really want to change. I just can't sit down and write that way anymore right now. So I'm wondering, I loved your message, forward to better, not back to normal. In the essence of that, do you think now is a time when we can kind of go back to more positive messaging and solution-oriented messaging?
It's on all of us to do that, because the rest of the world is taking care of the negative stuff, right? The report of the increase in this. There's a lot of ugliness and damage in the world, but you as marketers, I would encourage you to do that. And I think I'm answering your question, Donna. Take a step back and understand what it is you do for your customers, right? Not what product you sell. What problems do you solve for your customers? And in what ways have you become creative in solving their new problems? Because I'm sure they have I look at my customers, right? They're still trying to build roads and power things, but their challenges are different. So if you can hone in on what emotion are you most connected to your customers with? What problem are you solving? How are you making their lives easier? How are you making their risk lower? And just talk about that and your commitment to that. It's not fluff, right? It's the true value of what you're delivering, and that's about as positive as it gets. And then I think from a human element, even you don't have to say you understand what they're going through. I don't understand half the time what I'm going through, but you can say, I get that it's a challenge. I get that it's tough. I'm here. I may not have an answer, but I'm here to listen. And I think if that becomes the message in your marketing, not just to your teams and your families and so on, that is genuine empathy. And that is how you build brand love and loyalty, right? That is how it isn't just a message, it's a commitment to the people you serve. And honesty and vulnerability. I mean, Brene Brown, right? It's vulnerability is incredibly powerful. And so I think that's the way I would respond to that. Understand what's the value you bring to your customer, and talk about it emotionally in that way, right? Or am I making your people safer? Am I making you look like a hero? Am I helping you save money? Whatever it is very powerful. I hope I've answered your question. Sure.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
A question that's somewhat related. And I think we would all agree that everything that you're talking about here is so important in terms of human connection and things like that. But quite frankly, those things can't be measured, right? So how do you balance, what can be measured in marketing as far as ROI, effectiveness of reach, impressions, all that kind of stuff, with what can't be measured, and making sure that shows up in the conversation with the other executive leaders in the organization?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. If I had that magic answer, I'd have written a book and I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere. But I do think, look, it's one, you have to help people understand that there isn't one measure. Right. And so we've started talking about a metric ecosystem, and it's cyclical. It is a combination of measures, and in those measures are quantitative and qualitative. So again, this takes some time. And so let me use the Pac-Man as an example. Great stats, right? Number of views, number of impressions. We set the stage that we weren't going to sell anything directly, but what we were going to do was identify leads that we could then turn over to our sales folks. And when we started to see the conversion rate higher than average, people started to say, okay, you have connected with folks, you have created awareness of something, and you've created an affinity for it. And so we measured not just the quantitative, we measured the commentary that we got. And now we're measuring, the lead progression. We use Salesforce Marketing Cloud, among other technologies. We can measure number of leads turned over. We're now able to start measuring purchase intent, an indication based on content that people are engaging with. And I don't know if that answers all the questions, but what you've got to figure out is, what are all the behaviors that are indicative of a stickier customer, either somebody that you don't have to keep reselling, or somebody that can get greater share of wallet, or prospecting. And then you've got to build a measurement ecosystem that takes all of that into account. And that doesn't happen overnight, guys. That takes time. And there's plenty of people who still want to know how many leads and what do we close them on, and fine. But you start to change the discussion. And I think if you can really get quantitative, qualitative, and have deliberate methodology around your voice of customer, it is a huge opportunity for Caterpillar. We have more methodology of capturing voice of customer. Start with getting alignment there. And then as you get that voice of customer becomes an exceptionally powerful metric to tell you whether you're delivering the right information at the right time. So sorry, there's no magic bullet, but that's the approach we're taking. And it's moving, it's a slow train, but it's left the station. So
yeah. If Kim McGregor is available, I'd love you to ask your question. If not,
hello, Kim.
There she is. Can you unmute yourself, Kim? Yeah, you're still muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Victoria.
Hello, Kim.
How are you? Good. Thanks.
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. We have a little personal connection. I know Joe, and you know my sister Karen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm her sister.
Nice.
So my question was about kind of more about the how the work gets done piece of it, because in addition to all the personal kind of challenges that we've all been facing in this new world of working from home. Not everyone was ready to work from home when this transition happened so suddenly.
True.
And in
Yep.
terms of actually getting the work done, you said Caterpillar was not a work from home company.
Mm-mm.
What was that like for you, and what kind of collaboration tools have you had to deploy, especially when it comes, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, the messiness sometimes of just of creative work, of
Yeah.
churning out creative work, and not making that something that adds to everyone's already, very layered plate of stress. So just curious how your team is adapting.
Again, there is no magic answer. You can have all the great technology in the world. Nothing replaces collaboration across the table on certain things. So I will give you that. What I will tell you, let me answer your creative question first. Pac-Man, number 9, we've done a bunch of trials before, was concepted in March.
Okay.
We came back and we said, oh my God, we can't sit around a table anymore. From initial concept to, we had 14 business units, 43 dealers, all the product, everything was scripted, aligned. The maze was dug. That was a 300-foot by 300-foot actual maze out at our demonstration center down in Edwards. The team only saw each other to shoot it. We were there for a week shooting all of it. All the post-production, all the editing, all the media was all done virtually, everything. So you kind of go, now the team's like, we don't ever want to do that again because it's not as much fun. So I think what tools, look, we use Teams, and we worked very closely with Microsoft actually to enable different functionality that we needed for some of this work. So it was that, and it was grace. The only thing I can give you is, I said to the team, whatever you need to use, whenever you need to use it. If a 7 a.m. meeting doesn't work, we'll have a meeting at another time. And so I think it was less about the technology as it was about the flexibility to it, right? And forcing the team to shut it down, right? And not allowing people to talk to each other. So I don't know that there's no magic answer, Kim. I think it's, you find the technology that works. It's more about making people feel live when they're talking to each other. So making sure you have your cameras on. I mean, these sound so simple and easy, but they do make a very big difference.
Right.
So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did.
But that's
Absolutely.
it.
There was definite disruption of process. It sounds
Yes.
like you had to figure out how to get it done.
Well, and we did a survey. I didn't put that in there in May. I want to say May or June, on a remote work. I mentioned a few of them, and 95% said, I'm able to serve the customer, right? I have the tools I need. We said, what else do you need from us? We need some flexibility on when we're on and off. And we said, done, shut it on, shut it off. I think honestly, in some ways, I think the trick's going to be get your butt back in the office. Well, I like it like this, I mean, it'll be a hybrid, but I think people are also craving the human piece. So from my perspective, I think the way we work is forever changed. I would be deeply shocked if somebody said you must be in the office every day. But I think there's also great kudos in productivity, but the mental health piece has started to wear on it. And so we have activity challenges. We just finished an activity challenge where teams, how many steps did you have? And we had meetings on that. So we tried to create, the just the friendliness of it as well. So again, I'm sorry if that's not,
No, that's great.
it's
Thank you.
direct, but it's like everything else. It's a combination, and it's listen to what your people need. They will tell you.
Great. Thanks.
Sure.
Victoria, we had
Yes.
a fitness challenge in November, and I worked out every day but one, and I didn't lose a pound. But we had fun, and we tracked miles around the world as a team. It was actually
Did you really?
fun. We did it with sales. We had a hoot. And one other quick point, and I'm going to turn it over to Dakota because I know.
By the way, I was on the winning team. Not to brag or anything, but here's the trick: if you're on that and you guys are counting miles. Yeah. Use a bike, don't walk.
That's what it was.
If you get people to get on a bike,
it was a good hack.
Yeah, right.
It was a good hack. And the other thing I would like to say to support my friend Alon here is that the concept of how to work, Agile's really taken some leaps and bounds, and we're going to be talking about that in January. So for sure, show up for that. And Alon is going to be one of the presenters at that. But I think we're almost done. And Dakota, I don't know if you need me to do it. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Victoria for sharing your story.
My pleasure.
I had wanted so much for everyone to leave on a high note, as the esteemed George Costanza would share with all of us, right? For the year, let's leave it on a high note. And I think you really helped us with that. So I want to thank you again.
Pleasure.
And Dakota, I hand it back to you.
Well,
Yeah,
and before I do that, may I ask, for those of you, if I didn't get to questions, Dakota, I'm happy to answer them separately. And please share it with me what works for you guys, because there's a lot for me to learn, and I would really appreciate some insight on your experience as well. So sorry about that. Go ahead, Dakota.
No, that's great. I maybe as a way of facilitating that, Maggie, if you could kind of throw into the chat, and we can share it via email with everybody, just our contact information, and then we can facilitate kind of follow up with all that. I know that certainly one of the questions that everybody wanted to ask, but was probably waiting for somebody else to do, was who do we need to know on LinkedIn so that we can drive the Pac-Man game ourselves, like be a part of that, like, you know.
Super fun. I know.
Well, this
didn't quite get to that.
Yeah, that'll be for round 2, I think. So thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, everyone that joined us today. I hope there's insight that you got. I know that there was, and that you can pay it forward to everybody that you work with and that's in your life, professionally or otherwise. So enjoy the holiday season. Mark your calendar for January 29th. We'll keep it all going. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy
My
holidays.
pleasure. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.